Now for our What in the World segment. What got my attention this week was this photograph, which inspired this one, and this one, and this one, and this one, and perhaps thousands more. Why are all of these men dressed like women? The first photograph you saw is of Majid Tavakkoli, a student protester in Iran. And last week, as part of a national day of protest against the Iranian regime, he gave this rousing speech urging his fellow students to reject tyranny and stand up against what he called a dictatorship. Shortly thereafter, he was arrested. And shortly after that, Iranian news agencies, which are all tied to the regime, released these pictures of Tavakkoli wearing a traditional women's head covering. The news report said Tavakkoli tried to escape arrest by dressing like a woman. Tavakkoli's fellow opposition members say nonsense. They claim that the Iranian police dressed Mr. Tavakkoli in a particular way and released pictures to feminize him and ridicule him and thus embarrass the entire protest movement. In solidarity with Tavakkoli, men from across Iran and around the world have been dressing themselves the same way, taking pictures and uploading them to the internet. Technology has been a great friend of Iran's Green Revolution. It allows us, the world, to know and see what is happening inside the country. It allows us to even join in on protests in cases like these. The U.S. government has now recognized this too, and this week the Obama administration notified Congress that it has begun the process to remove sanctions currently in place that prohibit people in Iran from downloading American-made software for instant messaging, chat, email, and social networking. But the Basij, Iran's government-controlled militia, is trying to stay one step ahead. They are greatly beefing up their operations, putting in a division of cyber police to keep an ever more vigilant watch on what is said, done, and transmitted from Iran. As one Iran watcher I know put it, Iran has been investing in repression. When the opposition tries to march in the streets, it is literally beaten back. When they speak out, as we have seen here, they are silenced by arrest. When they try to organize, they are thwarted. That's why I think that while the protests and protests like this one gather great goodwill for the green movement around the world, I wonder whether they will ultimately be effective internally, whether they are achieving their goal of unseating President Ahmadinejad. I spoke recently with Farhad Khoskovar, a Frenchman of Iranian origin who is now a very distinguished professor in Paris, and he told me that he holds the green movement in great esteem. It is the first large-scale democratic movement in the Muslim world. But, he said, it lacks leadership. And let's remember, leadership can make all the difference here, turning a protest movement into a revolution. Think of Gandhi, King, Mandela. Meanwhile, there are reports that Majid Tavakkoli is now in solitary confinement in Iran's notorious Evin prison.